You'd think sharing a womb-to-world journey with your own sister would be all matching onesies and shared cravings, right? A Pinterest board of prenatal bliss. Well, buckle up, because my sister, Jessica, and I are indeed pregnant at the same time, both with boys no less. But instead of swapping nursery themes, I'm currently engaged in a top-secret, Cold War-level operation to protect a single, precious commodity, my unborn son's name. And the enemy? Yeah, she shares my DNA. You know, life has these little tripwires, these almost invisible threads stretched across your path. You're just strolling along, minding your own business, and then twang, you're face down in a reality you never saw coming. For me, one such tripwire was a pastel-drenched baby shower 3 years ago. Not mine, not by a long shot. It was a joint affair for my sister, Jessica, and her then inseparable BFF, Chloe. Both were gloriously, simultaneously pregnant, both expecting little girls, their due dates practically holding hands. It was meant to be a symphony of onesies and hormonal harmony. It was, instead, the overture to an opera of awkwardness. Fast forward to now. My husband, Mark, and I are on the precipice of parenthood, our first. A little boy, according to the ultrasound tech who'd had the same slightly bored, seen-it-all-before expression, I imagine most ultrasound techs perfect. And, in a twist of cosmic irony, or perhaps just Murphy's Law having a field day, Jessica is pregnant again too. Her second, also a boy. And here's the kicker, the detail that has my stomach doing gymnastics Nadia Comaneci would envy. She's due a good 3, maybe 4, weeks before me. That, my friends, that little lead she has in the pregnancy Olympics, is why I'm currently living in a state of low-grade, name-related paranoia. It all loops back, like a bad song on repeat, to that baby shower and the spectacular implosion that followed. To understand why this is currently consuming roughly 87% of my waking thoughts and a good chunk of my REM sleep, you need to understand Jessica. She's my oldest sister by 5 years, and from the moment she could articulate a desire, she developed an almost preternatural ability to manifest it. Not through tantrums or overt aggression. Oh no, Jessica was far too sophisticated for that, even as a child. Hers was a methodology of gentle, persistent erosion. She was like a river, and your objections were merely sandstone. If she wanted the last slice of pizza, she wouldn't snatch it. She'd embark on a compelling monologue about how you looked, a little peaked, how carbs were probably not your friend today. And by the time she was done, you'd be offering her the slice and a side salad. If she coveted your favorite oversized, perfectly worn-in college sweatshirt, it would suddenly acquire an almost mystical glow when she just tried it on for a second, and you'd find yourself admitting it really did drape better on her frame. It was infuriatingly effective, a masterclass in the art of the velvet-gloved power grab. So, 3 years ago, Jessica and Chloe were the poster children for synchronized pregnancies. They waddled together, compared swollen ankles, and debated the merits of various diaper brands with the intensity of nuclear physicists discussing cold fusion. Chloe, who has an Excel spreadsheet for everything, including, I suspect, her emotional well-being, had her daughter's name chosen before the first trimester was even a memory. It was a name she'd apparently loved since she was a teenager, a lyrical, elegant choice with a middle name that sang in harmony with it. Let's call this dream name Seraphina Pearl. Chloe breathed. Seraphina Pearl. She'd write it in the condensation on bus windows, whisper it to the gentle swell of her belly when she thought no one was listening. It was more than a name. It was a promise. Jessica, meanwhile, was performing an extended Hamlet soliloquy on the agony of indecision. For 8 solid months, every family gathering, every phone call, became a stage for her torment. I just can't find it. She'd lament, her voice thick with manufactured despair. Nothing feels right. What if I pick something and then it sounds weird when she's a teenager? What if she hates it? The pressure is unbearable. she'd clutch her bump dramatically, as if the sheer responsibility of bestowing a moniker might send her into early labor. We all tried to help. My mum, bless her optimistic soul, dusted off ancient baby name books filled with names like Ethel and Mildred. I'd send her links to websites brimming with possibilities. Each suggestion was met with a theatrical sigh and a, "No, that's not her." Then, about a week before Lily, my now niece, was due to make her grand entrance, a metaphorical lightning bolt struck. Jessica called me, her voice fizzing with triumph. "I've got it! Sarah, I finally got it! The most perfect, beautiful name in the entire world." We were all relieved. The great name quest was over. Lily was born, a perfect, pink, squalling bundle. Chloe, herself just weeks away from her own due date, was one of the first visitors at the hospital, a fluffy teddy bear clutched in her hand. The room was filled with that new baby smell, powder and potential. And then Jessica, beaming like she'd just won the lottery, made the grand announcement, "Everyone, meet Seraphina Pearl." The air didn't just get sucked out of the room, it felt like a vacuum seal had formed. I remember Chloe's face vividly. It wasn't anger, not at first. It was a slow, dawning horror, like watching a car crash in slow motion. Her smile froze, then melted. The color leached from her skin, leaving her looking ashen. Her eyes, wide and unblinking, locked onto Jessica. "Jess," she began, her voice a fragile, reedy thing. "Seraphina Pearl? That's the name. The one I told you. For my baby." Jessica, adjusting Lily in her arms, gave a little tinkling laugh that sounded utterly alien in the suddenly charged atmosphere. "Oh, this, Seraphina Pearl, isn't it just divine? It literally just popped into my head the other day, like a gift from the universe. And you know how it is, darling," she added with a breezy wave of her free hand. "First come, first served. But don't you worry your pretty little head. You've still got plenty of time. You'll find something else just as special for your little one, I'm sure of it. First come, first served. Asterisk." The casual cruelty of it hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Chloe just stood there, speechless, the teddy bear slipping a little in her grasp. Then, with a visible effort, she composed herself, offered a mumbled congratulations that sounded like broken glass, and practically fled the room. Their friendship, which had seemed as solid as oak, shattered into a million irreparable pieces right there on the linoleum floor of that maternity ward. Later, when our mom, ever the family UN peacekeeper, tried to gently remonstrate with Jessica, suggesting perhaps it had been a tad insensitive, Jessica was genuinely perplexed. "But Mom, it's a gorgeous name." And she was just dithering. I needed a name. If anything, she should be flattered. I thought her taste was so good. Flattered. Yes, Chloe was practically overflowing with flattery, I'm sure, as she sobbed on my shoulder later that week, trying to process how her best friend could have been so callous, so utterly dismissive of something so deeply personal. Jessica, meanwhile, sailed on, blissfully unaware, or perhaps willfully ignorant, of the wreckage she'd left in her wake. She truly seemed to believe she was the heroine of her own story, the plucky mum who'd found the perfect name against all odds. At the time, I wasn't even thinking about babies of my own. It was a shocking display of selfishness, a definite black mark on Jessica's character record, but it wasn't my circus, not my monkeys. It was just another anecdote filed away in the classic Jessica mental archive. But now, now the monkeys are flinging poo directly into my cage. Mark and I were ecstatic when the ultrasound revealed a tiny, perfect boy. We'd had a girl's name, a beautiful, ethereal thing we'd both fallen in love with years ago, tucked away like a pressed flower. But a boy? That required a fresh expedition into the wilderness of nomenclature. We spent countless evenings cocooned on our worn velvet sofa, the scent of chamomile tea in the air, surrounded by scribbled lists and dog-eared baby name books. We wanted something that felt like him, even though we hadn't met him yet. Strong, but not aggressive. Classic, but with a spark. We vetoed names that reminded us of annoying former colleagues or problematic historical figures. We auditioned sounds, rolling them around on our tongues. And then, one rainy Tuesday, Mark, looking up from a particularly obscure mythology website, said it. Just said the name. And it was like a key, turning in a lock I hadn't even realized was there. A profound, internal yes. It resonated through me, warm and certain. It felt like sunlight after a storm. It was perfect. It was him, our son. In that same moment, almost as if the universe had whispered a warning, the image of Jessica and Serafina Pearl flashed in my mind. We looked at each other, Mark and I, and no words were needed. This name, our son's asterisk name, was going into lockdown. Fort Knox level secrecy. Given Jessica's well-documented history of name appropriation and her critical few weeks head start in the birthing department, the risk was glaringly obvious. No one would know. Not our well-meaning but potentially leaky parents, not our excited siblings, not our dearest friends who were already planning baby showers, and most definitely, unequivocally, not Jessica. We even decided to keep the gender under wraps for as long as socially feasible, a verbal smokescreen to buy us precious time and peace. Of course, peace and Jessica on a mission are mutually exclusive concepts. True to form, as her own bump swelled and her desperate search for the perfect boy name commenced, Jessica's feelers started twitching in my direction. It began with an air of casual camaraderie. "Sue, Sarah, darling." She'd coo during our weekly check-in calls, her voice dripping with manufactured sweetness. Any little name ideas bubbling up for your bundle of joy? Anything just sparkling for you? "Oh, you know how it is, Jess," I'd reply, aiming for an Oscar-worthy performance of breezy nonchalance. Still tossing things around. "It's a big decision, isn't it?" Trying to sound like I was in the same boat of agonizing indecision she claimed to be captaining. "Tell me about it," she'd sigh, launching into a fresh tirade about the dearth of acceptable boy names in the English language. For a fleeting, foolish moment, I allowed myself a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, the Chloe debacle had served as some kind of lesson. Maybe she'd evolved. Spoiler alert, she had not. As day, for her, loomed ever closer, and ours wasn't far behind, her inquiries shifted from casual to surgical. "Okay, for real now. Sarah, spill. What have you got for a boy?" "I mean, we're both having boys, how fun is that? We can totally compare notes, make sure we don't accidentally pick the same one, ha ha ha." Her laugh was a little too bright, a little too forced. "We're honestly still working on it, Jess." I lied, the familiar sensation of a cold knot forming in my gut. Haven't quite landed on the one that feels absolutely perfect yet. Each life felt like swallowing a small stone. Then came the maneuver I'd been subconsciously bracing for. "You know," she said, her voice adopting that cloying, manipulative cadence I'd recognized since childhood, the one that usually preceded her acquiring your most prized possession. "Sharing names is, like, such a fun part of being pregnant together. It's a real bonding experience, don't you think?" A bonding experience. Right. About as bonding as that time she borrowed my favorite silk blouse for a party and returned it with a mysterious red wine stain she swore was already there. The sheer, unadulterated audacity of it almost made me laugh. Bonding was her Trojan horse, and I wasn't about to let it through my city gates. I attempted a strategic retreat via absurdity. "Well," I said, feigning deep thought, "we've been kicking around a few more unique options, like maybe Algernon? Or possibly Beowulf. Tiberius has a certain ring to it too, don't you think?" I was hoping the sheer ridiculousness would act as a repellent. She wasn't buying it. Not for a second. A shadow of impatience crossed her features. "Oh, Sarah, don't be silly," she snapped, the sweetness curdling. "Just tell me. Seriously, What's the big deal? No, Jess, I said, my voice firmer this time, surprising even myself. We're keeping it to ourselves until he's born. This was a new dynamic for us. Me, holding a boundary against the full force of a Jessica want. It felt like holding a shield against a hurricane. The pout materialized, as predicted. Then came the cajoling, the faux innocent bewilderment. Then, the attempt at guilt-tripping. But why? What are you so worried about? Are you afraid I'll… what? Steal it? She let out a high-pitched laugh that didn't quite reach her eyes. Sarah, that's just ridiculous. Don't be paranoid. The truly ridiculous part was that I think, on some level, she genuinely believed her own revisionist history. In Jessica's world, the Chloe incident was a minor blip, a case of Chloe being oversensitive and possessive. Jessica was the victim, unfairly maligned for simply choosing a beautiful name that Chloe also happened to like. Her capacity for self-absolution was, frankly, breathtaking. It was like watching a magician make an elephant disappear. You knew it was a trick, but the execution was so seamless you almost questioned your own sanity. The pressure campaign intensified. She began employing a new tactic, public appeals. She clearly believed that the court of public opinion, or at least family opinion, would force my hand. The climax arrived at my mum's 60th birthday dinner. We were at a noisy Italian restaurant, surrounded by a sea of aunts, uncles, and cousins, the air thick with the smell of garlic and cheap Chianti. Jessica, her belly a prominent feature at the table, leaned forward conspiratorially, her voice pitched to Carrie. Sarah, sweetie, everyone here is just dying to know. What's the big super secret name you've picked out for your little man? A sudden silence fell over our section of the table. Every eye swiveled towards me. I could feel a flush creeping up my neck. This was precisely the kind of ambush I'd been dreading. We're just not quite ready to share it yet, Jessica. I managed, trying to keep my voice light and even, though inside my heart was hammering like a trapped bird. Oh, don't be such a party pooper, she trilled, loud enough for the neighbouring tables to hear. It's just a name. What's the harm in a little sharing amongst family? It was my younger brother, David, who, bless his often clueless but occasionally laser-sharp perception, decided to lob a verbal grenade into the proceedings. He was halfway through a breadstick and grinned, thinking he was injecting some light-hearted banter. Yeah, Jess, he said, a little too loudly. Why would anyone tell the official family baby name thief the super-secret name they've chosen? You could have heard a lasagna noodle drop. Jessica's face transformed. The expectant, slightly smug smile vanished, replaced by a look of utter shock, then wounded fury. Her lower lip began to tremble. Actual tears welled in her eyes. Is that why? She choked out, her voice thick with emotion, aimed directly at me like an arrow. Is that why you won't tell me, Sarah? Because of that stupid thing with Chloe years ago? You're actually holding something against me that I never ever did to you. And there it was, ladies and gentlemen, the Jessica defense in all its glory. Deny, deflect, and declare victimhood. It wasn't her fault for betraying her best friend. It was Chloe's fault for being unreasonable. And now it was my fault for daring to remember the incident and, heaven forbid, draw conclusions from it. The mental contortions required to arrive at that conclusion were worthy of a Cirque du Soleil act. My mum, predictably, went into full crisis management mode. She was up in an instant, fluttering around Jessica, cooing soothing platitudes. Now, David, that wasn't a very kind thing to say. Jessica dear, don't cry, it's okay. Sarah, she said, turning to me, her face a mask of pained appeal. Why can't you just share the name? It's not such a terrible secret, is it? And besides, she added, deploying what she clearly thought was the ultimate trump card of maternal logic, if Jessica did happen to choose the same name, well, everyone would know that you and Mark had it picked out first. You announced your pregnancy intentions much earlier, in terms of when you started thinking about names. even if her actual due date is a bit sooner. I just stared at my mother, momentarily speechless. Did she genuinely not grasp the fundamental issue? Did she not understand that this wasn't about dibs, or who could prove first claim in some imaginary name registry? This was about respect, about boundaries, about my sister's demonstrable history of disregarding both when it suited her. It was about the sheer, unmitigated gall of taking something so deeply personal, so carefully chosen, from someone else, and then having the nerve to act like they were the unreasonable one. "Mom," I said, my voice dangerously low and tight, a warning rumble she should have recognized from my teenage years. "It is not about everyone knowing we chose it first. It's about her, not using it. Full stop. And no, I am not sharing the name." The rest of the birthday dinner was an exercise in exquisite social torture. Jessica alternated between sniffling into her napkin and shooting me looks that could curdle milk. My mum wore the strained expression of a diplomat whose peace talks had just been torpedoed. David looked like he wanted the earth to swallow him whole, finally realizing his joke had the comedic timing of a tax audit. Mark, my rock, just silently reached for my hand under the table, his fingers lacing through mine, a steady, grounding pressure that was the only thing keeping me from either bursting into tears or flipping the table. Later that night, back in the sanctuary of our own home, the dam finally broke. "Am I being completely insane?" I asked Mark, pacing the length of our small living room. "Am I the villain in this story? Is this really such an earth-shattering deal? Or am I just being a petty, unforgiving asshole?" The words tumbled out, a torrent of accumulated stress and self-doubt. Mark stopped my pacing, gently taking my shoulders. His eyes were kind, steady. "No, Sarah, you are not crazy. And you are definitely not the asshole. You are protecting something that is incredibly important to us, to our son, after what Jessica did to Chloe. You have every right, every reason to be this cautious. This is our baby, our chosen name. She doesn't have an inherent right to it, or even to know it before we're ready." End of story. His certainty was a balm. I know he's right, logically, but the emotional shrapnel from these encounters still embeds itself under my skin. This is my sister, the person I shared a bedroom with for 15 years, the one who taught me how to French braid, badly, and sneak cookies from the jar without getting caught. We're supposed to be reveling in this shared experience, this miracle of simultaneous pregnancies. And there's a small, wistful part of me, the part that still believes in fairy tale endings and uncomplicated sisterly bonds, that wants to share. I want to gush about the beautiful, strong, perfect name we've chosen, to see her face light up with genuine happiness for us, a rare sighting, admittedly, to feel that uncomplicated connection. But then, like a persistent ghost, the image of Chloe's face swims into my vision, pale, shocked, utterly betrayed. I hear Jessica's dismissive, tinkling laugh, her careless pronouncement, "First come, first served," and the drawbridge to my secret slams shut again. I know I can't risk it. The name we've chosen for our son is become more than just a name. It's a symbol. It was the first tangible thing Mark and I created for him together, a whispered promise of love and identity. It felt like we were weaving a tiny piece of our souls into those syllables. It feels sacred, almost holy. And the thought of Jessica snatching it, not because she loved it with the same depth we do, but because it was there, because she could, because it was a momentary whim or a competitive impulse, and then the inevitable, patronizing, "Oh, Sarah, you can just find another one." It makes a primal rage simmer deep in my belly. This feels like the first significant act of maternal protection I'm called upon to perform, and I'm damned if I'm going to buckle. Jessica still calls, of course. The direct interrogations about the name have ceased, for now, but there's a chill in her voice, an undercurrent of simmering resentment, of unspoken accusation. "You don't trust me. You think I'm a terrible person, a name thief, asterisk." She chatters about her nursery decor, grey and yellow, apparently very in. Her rapidly approaching baby shower, for which I'm expected to provide a suitably lavish gift, her increasingly uncomfortable Braxton Hicks. I listen. I make the appropriate noises of sympathy and support. I try to be the good sister, the engaged aunt-to-be. But there's an enormous, unacknowledged elephant in the room, munching on the metaphorical carpets of our conversation. Its name is Serafina Pearl. My mom, bless her ever hopeful, peace at all costs heart, still makes gentle, probing attempts at mediation. Are you absolutely sure you don't want to just tell her, honey? She'll ask, her voice soft and placating. Maybe if you just explain to her, very calmly, how much this particular name means to you both. She lives in a lovely, idealistic world where people don't willfully bulldoze over your clearly expressed feelings if it conflicts with their own desires. Jessica, unfortunately, majored in bulldozing with a minor in gaslighting. So, here I am, in the home stretch of this pregnancy, my belly round and tight, feeling our little boy kick and squirm within me. And I'm guarding his name like it's the key to a hidden treasure, like it's the last dragon egg in existence. It feels slightly absurd, a tad overly dramatic, like I've wandered onto the set of a daytime soap opera. But the alternative, the thought of attending her baby's birth announcement and hearing that name, our son's asterisk name, proclaimed to the world from her lips, of seeing that familiar, smug, I got what I wanted, glint in her eye. Number, just, no. The very idea makes me feel physically ill. Maybe I am the asshole here. Maybe I'm letting a single, albeit significant, incident from 3 years ago cast an unfairly long shadow over my relationship with my sister during what should be a time of shared joy. Maybe I'm depriving myself, and even her, of that fun part of pregnancy she keeps harping on about. Maybe I'm being stubborn and unforgiving. But then I imagine the moment, not too far from now, when I'll finally hold my son in my arms. I picture myself looking into his brand new face, his eyes still adjusting to the light of the world, and whispering his perfect, carefully chosen name to him for the very first time. A name that is his, and his alone. A name that is pure, untainted by drama, untarnished by theft or competition, a name given in love and hope. And I know, with a certainty that settles deep in my bones, in that fierce, primal core of new motherhood, that I'm doing exactly the right thing. Or am I? Seriously, am I the asshole for not telling my sister the name we've chosen for our unborn son? All because she callously swiped her best friend's baby name right out from under her nose 3 years ago. And I have absolutely zero faith she wouldn't do the exact same thing to me? You tell me. Because some days, when the pregnancy hormones are raging and the family pressure is mounting, I honestly don't know anymore. All I know for sure is this. This baby and this name are mine to protect. And come hell or high water, or a very determined sister, that's precisely what I intend to do.